last video, we used a 10 by 10 grid to represent one whole, or 100%. Now, we are going to make the grid even more useful by assigning it a value. Instead of saying the whole grid is just one unit, we might say that the whole grid represents $300, or 180 skateboards, or all the teachers in a school district. This is where percent grids become powerful for solving real problems. Let's start with a grid that has one square shaded. Remember, one square is 1% of the grid. Now, let's suppose the entire grid represents $300. Since the full grid has 100 small squares, the $300 is spread evenly across the 100 squares. So if I want to find the value of one square, we divide 300 divided by the 100 squares to get 3. So each small square represents $3. Now, suppose we want to represent $24. Each square is $3, so we ask 24 divided by 3 gives us 8. So in order to represent $24, we need to shade 8 of these squares. And that'll represent $24, which is going to be 8% of 300. This is an important teaching moment. Students are not just memorizing that one square is 1%. They are also connecting each percent to an actual amount. Let's try another one. Let's suppose we want to represent 45%. Since each small square is 1%, we will shade 45 small squares. One easy way to do this is to shade 4 full rows, as I'm doing here, and then 5 more. How much is this? Well, we have 45 squares shaded, and they are $3 each. That gives us a total of $135. Now, let's suppose this percent grid represents 180 skateboards. So what that means is that 100% is 180 skateboards. Let's suppose that there are 45 squares that are shaded. That's going to represent 45% of 180. So what value is that? First, we need to find the value of one square. The whole thing is 180. And there are 100 squares, so we divide 180 by 100 to get 1.8. So each square represents 1.8 skateboards. So 45 squares will be 45 times 1.8, or 81. So 45% of 180 skateboards is 81 skateboards. Now let's go in another direction. Let's suppose the grid still represents 180 skateboards. We want to shade the number of small squares that represents 27 skateboards. So how do we do this? Well, each square represents 1.8 skateboards. So we divide. 27 divided by 1.8 is 15. So we need to shade 15 of our small squares. This means 27 skateboards is 15% of 180. Let's look at another problem. This grid is going to represent the number of teachers in a school district, and the 28 shaded squares represents 70 teachers. When using a percent grid, the first question should always be, how much does one square represent? We have 70 teachers, and that's in 28 squares. So 70 divided by 28 gives us 2.5. One square represents 2.5 teachers. That may feel strange because we usually do not have half a teacher, but in a model, each square can represent an average or proportional amount. Now, how many teachers are in the entire school district? The full grid has 100 squares, and each square represents 2.5 teachers. So 100 times 2.5 is 250. There are 250 teachers in the school district. Now, let's do a percent greater than 100%. One year, a car dealer sold 1,584 cars, which was 132% of the number sold the previous year. So the shaded region of the percent grids represents 1,584 cars, and the shaded region is 132%. Since each small square represents 1%, we can find the value of one small square by dividing. 1,584 divided by 132 gives me 12. So one small square, or 1%, represents 12 cars. Now, what is the value of 100 small squares, or 100%? Well, there would be 100 squares, and each of those represents 12. So 1,200 cars. So the 100% is 1,200 cars. That means the dealer sold 1,200 cars the previous year. This problem is especially important because students may be tempted to subtract 32% from 1,584, but that would be using the wrong whole. The 132% is based on the previous year, not the new year. As future teachers, always encourage students to ask, what is 100%? That question helps students identify the whole. You are building strong, flexible thinking here. Percent is much more meaningful when students can see what the whole is and how the pieces relate to it.